All right, let's talk a little bit about why I think Flash is a great program, and I'm going to bring up my copy of it right now. I've been illustrating in Adobe Flash, or I should say Macromedia Flash, as it was once called, since 1999 or so. Pretty much a little bit before I left college. The program started to get popular, and I was using it for 2D animation at a toy company I was working at, and I have not stopped drawing with it since. Same as animation, I've been animating with it for just as long. And let's go over some of just the pros here. It's vector artwork. Okay, so you might be familiar with Photoshop, where you take a brush and you draw with that brush, you kind of swoop across the screen, you do whatever you want with it, and then if you were to zoom in on your document, most likely you would eventually start to see pixelation. Whereas if I were to zoom in on this bit of artwork right here, we're not seeing it pixelate yet. Nope, we can still zoom in, and it's this beautiful, perfect, crisp line. Doesn't pixelate at all. That's what vector artwork is. And it is it's kind of like connect the dots. You know, you draw a point and you can connect that point to a line, and it just creates that that smooth connection there. And of course you can fill it in with color and things like that, and we'll go over all that in the next video when we actually begin drawing things. But vector artwork is important for a lot of reasons. Obviously for print designers, because they can export out at high resolutions, and they can start drawing at kind of normal sizes. They don't have to start at with a very high resolution document. But vector artwork is even more important nowadays, what with Retina display or high definition screens, because as of a few years ago, when Apple released their Retina display screen, which had double the pixels per inch, suddenly we needed to export out some of the same artwork that we had used before, but with at a higher resolution. And if the original artwork or the source artwork was not in a vector format or created at a higher resolution, a lot of people had to go back and kind of recreate some of their own artwork. And I went through that myself, and a lot of the artwork I had created for games was easily exportable because I had vector artwork, and unfortunately some of it was not. So that's a great reason to use vector artwork. But also I just think Flash is a great illustration program. It at times is comparable to Adobe Illustrator. Illustrator might feel a little bit bloated if you're kind of new with the program, almost like there's too many tools to use. Whereas in the next course, when we start going over the drawing tools, you'll notice that I rarely even use this sub-selection tool, which shows you, and I'll just go ahead and kind of dive in here to really make my point. This tool will show you the actual points that are making up the shape, but there's the points. I rarely use that. I can get away with just using this this black arrow right here and kind of pulling out points from just basic shapes, and I don't worry about seeing the actual vector point that is connecting things together. And for people that aren't natural talented artists, I think that is a great way to illustrate. Once you get the hang of it, you can really quickly trace over things. So, for example, you could import in an image to a layer on the stage and then just begin shaping an image over top of it. And it's I think it's much easier than even tracing over something in real life with like tracing paper and a pencil. Okay, it's obviously much more precise, and vector illustration is in itself just a precise way to draw. So if you're kind of more technically minded, if things make more sense to you when you think linearly, like going from point A to point B, this is the way to draw for you. And if you don't have talent with drawing on pencil paper, like I don't even really have anymore because I just don't practice that much, this is certainly the way to go. And then if I haven't told you yet, we're using Flash, which can easily be animated with. It's also an animation program. I just wrote a book recently. The title of it is How to Fake Great Animation. You can find it at my website. It's free, and you can also find it in the iBook store by just looking up that title. But one thing I want to point out, and I'm kind of going over in video some of what I discuss in this section titled "What Program Are You Using?" Look at what Adobe describes their program as: Flash Professional, interactive experiences, game design, and mobile device packaging. Okay, when I read that, I didn't read illustration or animation. There's nothing in there about that. Okay, so Adobe's focus with this program is very different than what we're going to talk about in this course and what I talked about in my animation book. Okay, they want to sell this to you as a game design program to package up iOS and Android games. That's great. That's really terrific. So think about that. You can start in your illustration program. You can then animate a little bit with it. You can then add some programming to it if you want, some ActionScript 3, and then suddenly you can hit, which is essentially one or two buttons over in your publish settings, and package up a file that you can publish to the web for Flash Player, that you can sell in app stores both for Android and iOS. So you've kind of got this, like, one-stop shop for everything if you want to keep with the program. You don't have to. I mean, you could just draw in Flash and then go over here and export it out to a JPEG and just be done with it. That's what I did with my comic strips for years. I just drew in here, and then the end product was just a JPEG. Okay, but that's pretty major, actually, to think that Adobe so much considers this an interactive program. They don't even mention it anymore, that it's great for other things. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a lot of animation studios here because of Turner Broadcasting, and I was talking to someone that worked for that show Archer, and they do all their stuff in Adobe Flash, which is kind of fun to think that it's being used professionally for shows that are actually kind of cool too. So that is kind of my soft sell for the program, and you'll get the hard sell when we're going through hours of training with this video series. So anyway, that is and actually, I'm sorry, one last thing I want to show you guys was the kind of exploded view here of what is making up this floor panel comic to be. You've got your ground, the background, the shadows even separate, these lines are separate. Inside of here is all the little pieces of artwork that make up the character. We even got some light in here, which is getting clipped by a mask. So that little part of the window light is not being seen into that other panel right there because that's a mask. So you're only seeing what's inside of that square right there. And then of course you've got all these other components that just kind of, once put together, they look like this. And not to be overlooked here is the fact that this is a character made up of many different symbols, which are just containers of artwork. And you can see the actual container when I've got them all selected, as indicated by that bounding blue box around them. All of those parts are stored in a library, which I can drag any of these back out onto the stage right here, which is kind of a fundamental aspect of Flash because it's very easy to reuse your artwork. When I showed you guys those character sheets in the last video, the same body was attached to like 100 of those characters. Okay, yeah, it's lazy, but it's also economical as well. So and it kind of lends itself to being I think Flash was one of the first cutout animation softwares out there. Okay, and cutout style animation is exactly what it sounds like. Back well before computers, people were cutting out shapes and then putting them together, taking a photograph, moving those shapes, and taking another photograph and creating animation that way. So it's essentially what Flash is. It's a cutout animation program. You don't necessarily want it to look clunky like it is cutout shapes, and that's, well, hey, you know what? That's partly what this book is about right here. But we don't even really have to talk about that because we need to focus in on just illustrating and cartooning. So let's go ahead and get to it. And I hope you enjoy this course.